This week, the HPT crowns a new champion from the great state of Iowa. Over 200 players started, all vying for the lion's share of more than $300,000 in prize money. As always, we started our final table with 6 talented and lucky players that were able to navigate through this competitive field. When the cards started flying, so did the chips and the drama. 2 players have been eliminated. And now, the final 4 are ready to continue battling for the HPT Championship and over $90,000.
Hey, my name's Brett Dolan.
My name is Ken Rushhead.
My name's John Lepchinsky.
My name's Tim Thompson. I'm from Maple Park, Illinois. To try to take down this championship, I'm going to try play the same way I have to get here, and hopefully that it got me this far. Hopefully it'll get me to take it out.
I'm just going to play my cards that I get, and I'm going to play them right, I hope.
I'm extremely excited. Just trying to keep the money out of my head and just worry about winning.
Mom, I'm here at the final table. I'm the chip leader, and I'm going to take this down for you. I love you.
They come from all walks of life, each with a story to tell. All they need is a chip and a chair. It's an open casting call for those who love the game. This ain't your weekend home game. This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face. You with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game. Talk trash all you want. To me, it's all the same. You won't leave with much when you come in second place. And I'm the one with the stack, showing 7 to the jack. Gonna cry to your mama, cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello and welcome back to the HPT at Meskwaki Casino Hotel in Tama, Iowa with Fred Bevel. I'm Chris Hansen, and Fred, we're about ready to crown yet another champion here in the state of Iowa. Now, the Iowa State slogan is Field of Opportunities. Fred, that slogan is apropos at this final table. A field full of players generated a prize pool of over $300,000. And with the championship prize of over $90,000 waiting for one of our 4 players, there is a lot of action left at this final table.
Last time on the HPT, when we started this final table, we had 2 players that have been here before, and all eyes were on them. But now everyone's attention has shifted to Tim Thompson, who is the reason we continue this week four-handed. Tim started as the second short stack, but caught fire quickly. Tim sent Steve Wilbert to the rail when his King 10 outflopped Steve's wired 5s. Then later, it was Ray Stingray Bendijo who made his 4th HPT final table and was looking to take down his first championship. But Tim once again outflopped his opponent, sending Ray to the rail in 5th place.
And the other HPT final table alum at this final table is also the current chip leader. This is Ken Rusheisen's second time playing under the bright lights of our TV final table. Now, Fred, he's been playing fairly tight and conservative, and it's serving him well here at the final table. So let's meet who's left and then get right back to the action and crown our $90,000 HPT champion.
In seat number 2, this is Ken Rusheisen from Janesville, Wisconsin, has the best job on the planet. He's retired. Also has 2 kids and 4 grandchildren. One of our heroes, Chris, he served our country in Vietnam.
And in seat number 3, this is Tim Thompson. He is a plumbing contractor. He's from Maple Park, Illinois, and he is playing his very first HPT event, and he has been up and down at this final table. Right now sits with just under $1 million in chips.
In seat number 5, this is Brett Dolan from Northbrook, Illinois. He is a student from the University of Iowa. He's only been playing poker for a few years. Plans to use his prize money to study abroad in London and pay for college.
And finally, in seat number 6, this is John Lepchinsky. He's from Urbandale, Iowa. He is a student as well, and in his spare time, he likes to keep a close eye on the capital markets. That's funny. I once shopped at a place called the Capital Market.
A minimum of $21,000 is what these players are going to leave with tonight, but everybody's shooting for the top number, almost $91,000 to the next HPT champion.
And here is our chip count as we continue here at this final table. Ken is our chip leader. Brett, who started this final table as the chip leader, is currently in second place.
The short stack is John with only 11% of the chips in play, and the blinds, they're not too cheap. We're starting out tonight at $40,000 and $80,000 with a 10,000 chip ante.
All right, let's get get to it. This is John, the college student, and he will fold over to Ken, the retiree. He will fold, and now to Tim.
Over to Tim.
Tim has one of the best guaranteed jobs there is in the world. He is a plumber.
Over to
Everyone always needs a plumber.
That's
He's celebrating 30 years of owning his own business. He's going to limp in with ace-4. Brett's going to check his option with 8-4.
Brett is a student at the University of Iowa. Go Hawkeyes. And here comes the flop. The flop is Queen, Deuce, Jack, Rainbow.
No help for either of these players. Tim ahead with ace-high. He elects to check.
and both players.
Brett's going to check behind.
And now here
Let's go
comes
ahead
the
and
turn.
see the turn card.
And the turn's a 9 of diamonds.
Well, Brett picks up a gut shot straight draw. Outside of that, both these players sitting with just the cards in their hands. Tim with ace high, and the best of it, chooses to check. And Brett checks behind. Boy, we're playing poker now.
Time knowing to please see the river card.
And here comes the river. It is a 3.
Ace high is the winner. The only way Tim can lose this hand is if he folds. He's not going to fire anything at it. Let's see if Brett tries to steal it. Both these players acting allergic to this pot. I think someone would have fired a chip out there now just to see what would happen.
100.
There you go.
Bet is 100,000.
Brett with just 8 high has figured out that maybe a bet might win this hand. He fires out 100,000.
When you're playing blind versus blind, it's really not about the cards. It seems like sometimes it's just about who's going to get most aggressive with the chips. And that would be Brett here in this hand.
And a fold.
Sure enough, Tim is going to lay down the best hand at that point, but not the biggest bet, that's for sure. That goes to Brett, and he is going to take down our first hand of the evening.
We're continuing on at this final table 4-handed. We started 6-handed, and so far the play is pretty much what it's been like at this entire final table. Not too aggressive pre-flop, not too aggressive post-flop.
Ken looks down at 5 deuce of spades. The chip leader is going to be content to sit back and watch.
Over to
Tim with king 7 of diamonds.
And the button.
in the lead.
Let's see if these players have read any chapters on position.
He will fold. And so now we're down to John and Brett. These two have played a lot of hands together as the big and small blind in seats 5 and 6.
I'm all in.
Call.
A lot of players folding down to these big
over
stacks.
here
And look at
on
this,
seat number
quickly,
5 and
here we
call
go.
by
Now there's
John,
some
seat
aggression.
6.
Brett goes all in with 10-4,
By Brett shows
and John
10-4.
calls.
Going up against the ace.
Well, Fred, I
5.
think they heard you talking about aggression, but I don't think this is the situation that aggression was exactly what should have been happening.
Well, this is one of the plays we see a lot in poker, especially from inexperienced players, is they just shove it in from the small blind. 99% of the time, the big blind's going to fold. Ace-5 probably would have folded by most players here, but John figured, let's just call. He's going to find out he's ahead, but it's really a coin flip.
The flop is 10, king, 5.
Well, Brett is the aggressor. He went all in, and he's going to flop the best of it right now with a pair of 10s. John got a piece of it with a pair of 5s.
John's tournament life on the line. Here comes the turn. It is a 4, and now 2 pair for Brett.
Go ahead and see the river.
And the river is another king, and so Brett is going to win this hand. Got very aggressive out of the small blind, and Fred ended up getting lucky, and that means that John has been eliminated.
All right, John, quite a roller coaster, really, with you and Brett pretty much this whole final table. Talk about your play here at this final table.
Yeah, we've been playing quite a while together the last few days. I think we know, most of the time what we're working with. Just didn't want to flip, but, $45 investment, I'm pretty happy.
And we've got more action as we're on our way to a $90,000 HPT championship here tonight in Iowa on the HPT. Just outside of Des Moines, Iowa, we are in Tama, Iowa at Meskwaki Casino Hotel with Fred Bevel. I'm Chris Hansen. Here's our chip count.
It is all Ken Rusheiser right now with 42% of the chips in play. Brett with a little over $2 million. It's Tim Thompson in third place with a little over $1 million.
Next person to leave walks with $27,000, and then it bumps up to $45,000. And our next HPT champion leaves Tama with $90K in cash.
Suited gap connectors is the holding for our small blind, Mr. Tim Thompson. Rode his motorcycle here from his home in Illinois. 245 miles was the ride.
Little chilly, I would say. Brett checks his option with 6-4 offsuit and to the flop. It's deuce 6-4.
Boy, this is going to be an action flop. Brett flops 2 pair, but Tim has an open-ended straight draw.
And this is Tim Thompson ready to bet.
Looks like Tim is going to semi-bluff his straight draw. Fires out 150,000.
It's over 3/4 of the pot. And now the action's to Brett.
Brett deliberating whether or not to smooth call here or raise. All right, take another look. Yeah, you've got 2 pair, all right.
Raise to 400.
He's going to jack it up. Chris makes it 400 to go, making it 250,000 for Tim to make the call. What do you do here, buddy? Do you wave the white flag or do you smooth call and try to hit an out on the turn?
At this point, Tim is already into this pot. He's got 250,000 he has to put in now. If he makes this call, he is going to be about half of his chip stack in. Fred, you're getting into some awfully warm water at that point that could boil in a second on you.
Well, it's only 250 for Tim to make the call for a 750,000 chip pot. And now that pot with that call is just under $1 million.
All right, no,
One player with a hand already, the other hoping to make it on the turn. And the turn is an 8 of diamonds. Booyah for Tim Thompson.
Well, Tim hits a straight. He's also got a straight flush possibility or a flush possibility. Takes an out away from Brett. If he hits the 6 of diamond, that boat's going to be no good.
And 250K is the bet from Tim. Over to Brett.
I'm all in.
Call.
Brett Dolan, the young student, is going to go all in. An easy call for Tim Thompson. And Brett's like, oh, my goodness, I stepped in it here.
You got to wonder if Tim would have called on the flop if Brett would have done that. Would he have moved all in? Would he then call them all off with a draw?
Well, we'll never know. Now Tim is hoping to find a 6 or a 4, but not the 6 of diamonds. That would give Tim the straight flush.
The river is another 8, and Tim is going to win with a straight to the 8. And more bad luck for Brett at this final table. Earlier at this final table, Brett had to stay alive by sucking out on the river by hitting a 3-outer. And now, Fred, a big stack in front of Tim Thompson.
Blinds are going up. They're now 5,100 with a 10,000 chip ante.
Well, 5 million chips in play. If you start making raises to 300, 350,000, it's a substantial amount of your chips are going to be in play. Tim raises, and Brett moves all in.
Number 5, that's an all-in raise. That's Brett.
Ken will fold, and now back to Tim.
Ken, and we move back over to C3, Tim.
That's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, Tim might make the call thinking that Brett's just on tilt right now.
Or 7.
We can see that Tim is dominated by Brett. Tim's going to make the call, and Brett's going to like what he sees.
Tim flips over.
For right now, Brett is ahead. They both share a jack, but Brett has them out-kicked. So Brett's tournament life is going to be on the line for the college student from the University of Iowa.
$1.7 million is in the pot. This would put Brett right back in it.
Go ahead and see the flop, sir.
And here we go. The flop is 9-7-4 with 2 diamonds.
Well, Brett's holding the jack of diamonds. He doesn't mind that at all. He just needs to fade the queen.
Here we go. The turn is an ace.
So far, so good for Brett Dolan.
Brett's still in the
Tim
lead.
hoping to find one of the 3 queens left in the deck to knock Brett out.
Tim, let's go ahead and see the river.
And the river. It is a 7, and just like that, the chips that Brett lost are coming right back to his stack. A little fist pumping and high-fiving from the audience. Brett's right back in this thing, and Fred, just when we think someone is about to go out and the other player is going to take a huge chip lead, somebody doubles up again.
Boy, if you have a weak constitution, no limit tournament poker is not for you. A lot of emotional swings.
King 9 for Brett as he is playing now on the button.
And Brett's got to feel like he's free rolling right now. He started as the chip leader, got himself into a lot of trouble, was able to battle back.
200 straight, yes, sir, and a fold by C2.
He's going to min raise it now to 200,000.
Over to Tim.
Tim, who is yet to fold the big blind at this final table, is going to keep that trend alive.
And he's going to do it here with 7-3 offsuit.
Tim, let's go ahead and see that flop.
And here we go. And the flop is Queen, Jack, Deuce.
Neither player hits a pair on this flop, but Brett picks up a gut shot straight draw. Tim's going to check.
Over to Brett, who checks his King high.
Tim, let's go ahead and see the turn card, sir.
And the turn is a 7. That gives Tim a pair.
It looks like Tim's going to bet his pair of 7s, makes it 200,000. Brett quickly folds.
Yeah, I got to hand it to Tim. He has made a lot of calls when he's been in the big blind. He hasn't done much raising out of the big blind. And Fred, he's still alive, still in the hunt for the $90K championship here on the HPT.
Hey, my name's Tim Thompson. I'm from Maple Park, Illinois. I'm a plumbing contractor. I've been a plumber all my life. I've done it since I was a kid with my dad, and I've been running the business since 1980. I ride my motorcycle all the time. I put about 12,000 miles or plus a year on. The only time I don't ride it if it's raining or snowing. Usually I got heated equipment on it so I can go up to maybe 0 temperature. So it was only in the mid-30s coming here, so it's actually a nice ride. A little dark, but a nice ride. My strategy to take this down is to keep playing just the way it got me to where I did to the table, the final table, and I'm going to stay playing the exact same way and probably not change. It got me this far. Hopefully it'll take me right down to the end.
Thanks for coming back to the HPT. Over 200 players started this main event. We're down to 3 at our final table.
And it is wide open. Look at this chip count. All 3 of these players a raised pot away from taking over the chip lead. We are primed for some fireworks.
Blinds are 50 and 100K with a 10K Annie.
And it's a fold by Ken.
Ken's going to fold. Action moves over to Tim Thompson.
Tim and a 3.
Call.
Calls with Jack 8 offsuit.
Tim logs over 12,000 miles a year on his motorcycle.
Wow, there's a lot of people who don't even put that on a car. And he lives in northern Illinois.
Yeah, not a whole lot of riding time in that neck of the woods.
All right, let's take a look at the flop. It is Ace, Deuce, Queen.
Using C3.
Tim with Jack high has the best hand.
Tim checks.
He's going to check over to Brett. Okay, here we go again. Every time these two in a pot together, it's checky, checky, checky. I want to see someone bet.
And the turn is a 10.
Well, that gives Tim a gut shot straight draw. Brett now with just 7 high.
Check here by Tim. And both players will check.
Tim once again refuses to bet.
If somebody doesn't bet, my partner over here's head might explode. Please, somebody fire. The river is another 10. 3 clubs now on the board.
Tim's got the best hand with just Jack high, and he's going to choose to bet this. When the board pairs and a 3rd club comes, that's when you choose to bet.
The bet was 100.
All right, well, it worked.
Easy, big fella. Easy. There you go. Have some coffee. Everything's fine.
All right, that's fair.
All right, button is on seat number
Tim
5.
Thompson continues to stack the chips. All 3 of these players are afraid of misstepping with these chip counts so tight.
And Brett looks down at Jack Deuce to the muck. Over to Ken. 6-10 offsuit.
Ken, a Vietnam veteran, a grandfather of 4. Retired, plays poker almost every day.
Oh, what a life.
Isn't that awesome? He's going to limp with 10-6, and Tim's going to go ahead and check his option with 3 deuce.
And here is the flop. It's 7, Ace, 8, rainbow.
Well, Ken's picked up a gut shot straight draw. Needs a 9 to fill it in. Tim with just 3 high.
Ken is ahead in this hand. 10 high. Here comes the turn. It's a queen. Ken still in the lead and checks.
Tim's going to make a bet of 100,000.
And Tim's going to fire with just 3 high here. Finally, a bluff. And it works.
That is an honest-to-goodness bluff. There you go. Fred, are you happy now?
I'm thrilled. We're seeing some poker being played here. 90 grand on the line. Let's see who wants it.
Good, good. The blood's finally getting back up to his head. Good, good. All right. Playing for $90K and a seat at the year-end HPT Championship Open as well. Also, Player of the Year, also still being contested. If you do win Player of the Year on the HPT, you get free buy-ins to every event in season number 8.
Not so shabby. Ken Rusheisen's going to fold over to Tim Thompson. He's got Jack 8.
Call.
He makes it.
Another limp from the small blind, probably followed by another check from the big blind. Seems to be the feng shui of this final table.
And sure enough, Brett checks his option. And here is the flop. It's 6, 4, 8.
Well, both players got a little bit of this. Tim's got the best of it with top pair. Brett flops bottom pair. Tim's going to go ahead and fire out 150,000.
And now to Brett.
Call.
Brett makes the call.
And Brett wants to see a turn. He's going to float this.
And so now we'll see a turn. The turn is a 7.
That's interesting. Both players have a chop out. They both pick up a gut shot straight draw. Tim doesn't want to see that hit, though. He's got the best hand, but he's going to check it.
You got me covered.
Yeah. Well, maybe not.
Pretty close.
Be damn close.
Not by much, though.
Close.
Pretty even.
It's pretty close with all of these players.
250.
The bet is 250,000 by the 5 seed, Brett. 200.
Nice play here by the young student. Brett Dolan makes it 250,000 to go.
Bad card for me.
And with that kind of a board texture, top pair shrinks up pretty doggone quick.
And a fold by Tim.
Tim folds. Brett wins again. And for the college student from the University of Iowa, poker is something he's just getting himself into.
Hey, my name's Brett Dolan. Yeah, if I win this, I'm definitely going to still be a student, play more events on the side. I'm a business student at University of Iowa and probably going to major in finance and have an entrepreneurship certificate. Yeah, just something I'd like to say. Mom, I love you. She doesn't know I'm playing in this event. She just thinks I'm at my apartment on this Sunday afternoon watching football. I'm going to try wait till it comes out on TV and just tell her to tune in and see what happens from there. Mom, I'm here at the final table. I'm the chip leader, and I'm going to take this down for you. I love you.
All right, we're back to the action with Brett, Tim, and Ken.
Brett seems like a kid with a good head on his shoulders, doesn't he?
Sure, I'd probably give him a couple bucks if he asked me for it.
Remember those days when you had dreams and goals and
Hopes.
life looked so promising?
Yeah, and then I met you.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much the end of it, right?
Yeah, I
there.
agree.
Tim folds over to Brett. Brett's got Jack 9.
I call.
Chris Hansen's favorite hand. He's going to limp in with it.
Again, I love me some Jack 9. He limps in.
Look at this. Ken is going to raise it from the big blind. We haven't seen that at this final table yet.
245,000 total.
And he's doing it with 8-4 offsuit.
I like his spirit.
45,000, sorry.
The money is out there. Someone just has to go after it and want to take it right
Ken
now.
will raise it up to 200.
I call.
Brett's going to put some more chips in this pot. And it is now over $500,000 in chips. And Brett's going to be first to act. Ken will have position. Playing out of the big blind.
Can I get that for you?
You know, for years on the HPT, whenever someone peels back Jack 9 and plays it, we call it the Hansen because that is indeed my partner, Chris Hansen's favorite hand.
Yep.
And that has come back to bite him at the cash games at our events around the country.
Everybody knows that's the hand I love. The flop is 6, 10, 7.
And that's what's fun about Jack 9. You generally flop outs. Brett has a gut shot straight draw. Ken has a double gutted straight draw, also known as a double belly buster draw.
Brett's first act.
Brett's hoping to find an 8. Ken could go for either a 5 or a 9.
310.
310,000.
The young student is going to put the pressure on Ken, makes it 310,000 to go.
Now keep in mind, Ken was the one who raised pre-flop out of the big blind.
Whoa!
Oh, baby.
Didn't see that coming. And Brett quickly folds. Woo! Ken found himself a new gear.
Ken Rushheisen is going to bluff and take down this pot. More poker as we play three-handed towards an HPT championship when we come back. Thanks for coming back to the HPT with Fred Bevel. I'm Chris Hansen. Time for our Pro Tip of the Week with 2004 World Series of Poker main event champion Greg Raymer. Now tonight, Greg is going to do something that I have a problem doing at the poker table. It's setting up a good, positive image. I think it might be my calling is the main problem. Let's get our Pro Tip of the Week with Mr. Raymer.
Your image at the table is very important because it determines, to a large extent, how your opponents are going to play back at you. So how do you create the proper table image? The truth is, you don't. Here's what I recommend. I mean, you can try to create a table image, but I don't think you should. Instead, play the cards you're dealt as perfectly as you possibly can. Do whatever you think is going to maximize your profit potential for every hand you play, but then pay attention to the image that has created. So if you've decided the bluff is the smart move and you get caught bluffing, well, now your image is loose, aggressive bluffing guy. Take advantage of that image. But if your image is tight because you haven't been able to play many hands, take advantage of that image. But don't go out of your way. Don't make an unorthodox play because you think it's going to create the table image you want. That means you're doing something that you think is not the correct play. You're spending money, basically, to buy an image. And almost always, you're paying too much. The price is too high for the image you're creating. So play as perfectly as you can, and then just know the image that you have based upon the plays you made. Take advantage of that image. You're going to maximize your profit.
I'm going to go ahead and put a little addendum onto what he's saying. You know what's something else I like to look for at the poker table when you're playing a cash game? Whoever takes their cash out and waves it up in the air for their rebuys. Usually if they're trying to show everyone how much money they have, usually they're a pretty loose player. You can take a lot of money off of those folks.
I can't believe you just put an addendum on Greg Raymer.
Well,
how many bracelets have you won?
I only say that because Greg pointed it out that I did it like 4 times this weekend while I was here.
Tim Thompson is on the button with King Jack, and he's going to raise it. Makes it 300,000 to go.
Ace 4 for Brett.
300,000.
To 300,000, Brett. C3 is going to raise it to 300. And we move over to the 5 of Brett. At the break, just the chip leaders chips.
I'm all in.
Brett's going to go all in out of the small blind with Ace 4.
He's all in here, Fred. Bye.
Ken's going to get out of the way, and now it's Tim once again having the screws put to him. He's going to make the call with Queen High.
And so here we go. Brett will be in the lead. Tim does have 2 live cards.
For Brett. So the Ace 4.
Not a lot of folks would make an all-in call with Queen Jack here. Tim Thompson ready to gamble. Let's see if it pays off.
And here's the flop. It is 10, King, King with 2 hearts.
Oh, that is a horrible flop for Brett. Now he doesn't want to pair his ace. If he pairs his 4, Tim still has 2 overs and straight outs.
2 hearts.
Brett just wants to ride that ace high into the sunset. Here we go, the turn. It is an 8. So far, so good. Brett 70-30 to win this pot.
Brett hoping to fade the ace, the queen, or the jack, or the 9.
The river card, please.
And here we go to the river. The river is a jack, and Tim is going to hit the river and stay alive. And these players will just not go away.
Tim will win.
So many outs to fade on the river. I mean, you cut the deck in half, pick a card. Odds are it's going to help Tim's hand there.
And so Brett once again has to start all over as the short stack at this final table. Started as the chip leader, found plenty of opportunities to lose some chips, and now Fred, he needs a lot of help to stay alive here at this final table.
Ken Roscheisen organizing his chips. Tim Thompson huge in chips, and Brett's been here before. Short stack looking up, trying to get another quick double up.
400.
Ken raises with pocket queens to 400,000. Tim folds over to Brett.
C5, that is Brett.
He looks at one card, it's a deuce. Looks at the other card, it's an 8.
Sorry.
And he's thinking, oh, really? This is the hand I got to do it with? This is it?
You really don't have to do it with this. I mean, yeah, you got a razor and Ken Roscheisen. You're sitting with just 8 high. I say go ahead and let it go.
You're putting 50, 60,000 in with the ante on the very next hand. I say, you know what? Ken got some more money in there. Let's go ahead. I have to do it. And believe me, I'm all about waiting it out. That's fine. But at this point, yeah, you have to call.
Ken shows pocket queens.
Brett's going to find out he is just crushed.
I don't even have a live card. Not one. And here comes the flop. It is Jack, Ace, 8. All right. Here we go.
He got a little help on the flop by pairing the 8. Needs to hit another one.
And it's another ace. And so now only an 8 is going to do it for Brett. The deuce is no good.
2 pair aces and queens. Let's please see the river card.
And the river is an 8.
You got to be kidding me. Lightning in a bottle on the river for Brett. Hits a full house.
Aces and a double.
Brett's been in this spot a couple of times at this final table where he's just on the ropes, counted for dead, hits the miracle card on the river.
And the unhappiest person who is not showing it within a quarter-mile radius of this final table is Ken Rusheisen.
Wow, what a hand that was. Blinds continue at 50 and 100,000 with a 10,000 chip ante.
Tim's got ace-jack offsuit on the button.
Going to raise it up to 300,000.
Now, I know we got real excited there. The Brett doubled up, but boy, still doesn't have a lot of chips in front of him. He sees an ace. It's probably an opportunity to get it all in here out of the small blind.
And he is on the same page you are, Chris. He's going to get them all in the middle.
Ken folds. Tim makes the easy call, and so here we go. Brett gets on his horse, and as he looks up, Tim's horse is already out and running in front of him. So Brett's got to catch up yet again to stay alive.
With his ace-jack.
Well, Brett has been in this spot a few times already, trying to pull yet another Tim Tebow, if you will, come from behind.
Here we go. The flop is 10-7-6. He does it again.
He outflops Tim, hits a pair.
And he even has to laugh.
His sixes.
And now Tim will be looking for a jack on the turn of the river.
And here comes the turn. It is a jack. Okay, who's loaded the deck here?
No kidding. If this were a movie, everyone would be walking out of the theater saying this is unbelievable. Tim pulls ahead. Now it's Brett looking to get lucky again.
Here comes the river. Oh, it is an 8, and that is going to do it for Brett. He's going to go take a cold shower and think, man, what might have been at this final table.
Nice payday for you, and I got to ask, you're going home with just over $27,000. What was this HPT experience like for you?
It was great. This is my first live event, and first time I moneyed a live event, and it's exciting being the chip leader at the final table, but too bad things can't work out for the better.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Fred, we are ready for some heads-up poker. One of these two guys leaves Meskwaki with $90,000 in cash tonight. Find out who it's going to be when we start heads-up poker when we come back. All right, before we start Heads Up Poker, let's see what the players have in front of them. Ken's been the chip leader for quite some time at this final table. But, Fred, it is Tim who starts with the advantage as we start Heads Up.
This is still anybody's game. 62% of the chips in play for Tim, 38% for Ken.
$90,000 on the line for first place. Let's get some Heads Up Poker starting now. Blinds are 50 and 100,000 with a 10K ante. Tim's going to be first. He will limp in with 5-3 offsuit over to Ken.
All right, Timmy, let's go ahead.
Ken will check his option.
Ken's very relaxed as he looks at his first heads-up flop.
Looks like he has someplace he'd rather be than right here. The flop is 8-10 jack with 2 spades.
That's a great flop for Ken. He has flopped the nuts. Unfortunate for him, Tim's got nothing, but that's not going to stop him from betting out. 150,000 to go.
Tim wagered 150 after a check by
Another 4.
4 on top.
And it is a raise.
And it looks like it's a check raise from Ken.
50,000.
Says it's going to be 400 more on top.
We're done.
And that's all that Tim Thompson's going to need to see. He's going to get those cards quickly in the muck. Ken didn't want to see another spade come on the turn, I'm guessing, so he pounced right there with a check raise. Got 150,000 out of Tim.
Ken doesn't really look like he's the kind of guy who's scared of things that might be underneath the bed. I don't know what he was getting so aggressive for there. I think he just flat called and see what happens on the turn.
Tim Thompson again first to act, this time with ace-10.
Tim playing in his very first HPT event. It's always nice to see first-timers. Of course, the plenty-timers always hate it when first-timers make the final table.
Tim drove his motorcycle here from his home in Illinois, almost a 250-mile trip.
Why didn't you just drive it here?
That's what I said. Said the weather was good enough to ride a motorcycle.
And Tim won't be limping in this time. It looks like he's coming in for a raise.
Tim's going to raise to a total of 300.
He's going to raise to a total of $360,000 with ace 10.
Move over to Ken here in the 2.
And now to Ken.
Ken not really sure what to do. He's just going to make the ho-hum call with Queen Jack offsuit. And you're right, Chris. Ken looks flat out bored right now. He
like we're inconveniencing him. Well, I tell you what, whoever wins the $90,000 here tonight is going to have a pretty exciting couple of weeks, because not that far down the road, they're going to join us at the HPT Championship Open in Soaring Eagle. You win here, you automatically get a free buy-in into that championship event. But, of course, anybody can come and join us and take on all our pros from Season 7 on the HPT. Here comes the flop. It's 6 deuce 8.
That's a swing and a miss for both these players. Ken's going to check. Tim goes all in.
And a fold.
And not much for Ken to do. He's going to go ahead and fold. And, well, it's a yin and a yang. Ken won the first pot. Tim wins the second pot.
Wasn't that? Oh, yeah.
Ken Rusheisen making his second final table appearance. Last time was at this event in Iowa last season on the HPT. Took 6th place.
The button has
Ken's wife Karen in the audience today, cheering him on here at Meskwaki. Tim's going to limp in with 8-7. And now let's see what Ken's going to do with his baby ace here.
And Ken doesn't look like he's going to check his option here. Looks like he's going to raise with his ace.
280 more.
Ken's going to raise it to 280.
And he makes it an even $400,000.
Did you say 280 more?
Yep.
So he was going to raise it to a total of 400.
Not a very big bet from Ken here. Only $280,000 for Tim to see a flop.
And we go back to Tim after that. Yeah, don't drink no water.
Both these players slowing down the action a little bit. Being very deliberate in what they're going to do.
We'll call.
Tim's going to make the call.
Tim will call. And so now this pot is approaching $1 million in chips. 820,000 in the middle. And let's see another flop as we continue heads-up poker here from Meskwaki and Tama, Iowa. The flop is Jack, Deuce, Ace.
Well, Ken gets what he wants. He flops his ace, and he's going to go all in. Tim with 7-8 and nothing else is going to fold very quickly. Neither one of these players looking to massage these pots post-flop and get some value out of their hands. Both just want to pounce right away.
Even though Ken started at a disadvantage here, heads up, Fred playing very well, and more heads-up poker when we come back on the HPT. Welcome back to the HPT. Ken Rusheisen at his second HPT final table, trying to win his very first championship. And Fred, starting heads up, he was at a disadvantage. I guess you can say now he's at a little bit less of a disadvantage than when we started.
He is evening things up. Slow and steady is the mantra for Ken Rusheisen. He's been playing very tight. Both players playing very aggressive here post-flop. I don't think we've seen a turn yet.
And Tim is going to be first to act.
Tim's going to make a call.
He's going to limp in with Queen 9 and over to Ken.
Option was checked.
Ken checks his option with 6-5 offsuit. You know, I've been noticing Ken's hat at this final table. Is that an officially licensed HPT piece of gear, or is that a patch?
You know, it's a patch, but once you put it on, it's an officially licensed HPT piece
I'd like
of gear.
to get me one of them. Flop is 7-3-8 with a couple of hearts.
Well, Ken flops an open-ended straight draw. Tim, with just queen high, is going to continue his aggressive ways. He's going to lead out.
$250,000 is the bet from Tim, and Ken will call.
That was $250K.
And we're finally going to get to see a turn in this heads-up battle. Both of them had been very anxious to put the chips in the middle on the flop.
Let's go ahead and see that turn card, please.
Again, playing for $90,000 for first place tonight on the HPT. Here comes the turn. It is a 10.
Well, now things are getting a little more interesting. Tim picks up an open-ended straight draw, takes some outs away from Ken. That 6 is dead to him now.
And they're both going to check. The river is a king. Tim is still ahead. Let's see if Ken can bet him out of this pot.
Neither player has a pair. Tim can win this with queen high unless Ken can place a bet here that gets him to fold.
240.
And he does. Chris, I got to admit, this surprises me a little bit. Makes it $240,000 to go, which makes the pot worth $1 million in chips.
Is that a please call or please go away? That's what Tim is trying to decide right now.
Well, queen high here is all he's got. That's a tough call to make, even for the price. And he's not going to do it. And Ken, look at this, doing some stealing.
Well, we haven't seen much play like that from Ken at this final table. He maybe has decided finally, you know what? I got to get out of here. Let's make this thing happen. Ken looks down at pocket sixes. Ken is going to bet $475,000 with his pocket sixes. Over to Tim.
And Tim is going to go all in with his A7, and Chris, Ken makes the call.
So Ken is going to be ahead going to the flop. Tim has 2 overcards, and Ken's tournament life is on the line. Here we go. The flop is deuce, deuce, 5. Ken's sixes are still ahead.
Tim hoping to find an ace or a 7 on this board.
Go ahead and see that turn card.
Here comes the turn. It is an 8.
So far, so good for Ken Rusheisen.
Tim looking to slam the door on the river with an ace or a 7. And the river is a 5, and Ken Rusheisen is going to double up. And maybe a little bit too much aggression there for Tim, shoving it all in with ace 7.
Well, you know, we don't see Ken Rusheisen raise too much pre-flop at all at this final table. It didn't raise any red flags for Tim Thompson. He was racing, just couldn't hit the cards he needed. And now look at this. He's got nothing left in front of him.
Yeah, he is all in with his blinds. And let's see what hand he's going to take to war for the rest of his tournament life. He's got 6-7 offsuit versus Ken's 9-7 offsuit. And the flop, it's ace 4-6 with 2 diamonds.
Well, Tim pulls ahead here, flops a pair.
But Ken picks up a flush draw, still has the overcard. And the turn is an 8.
Well, it just gets better for Ken. Now he's got an open-ended straight draw to go with his flush draw. Also has a live 9. A lot of ways for him to become the next HPT champion.
And here we go. The river is a 3 of diamonds. That's going to do it. Ken Rusheisen, our newest HPT champ. And Ken's second time to an HPT final table ends with him winning it all.
All right, Tim, well, you came to this table as one of the short stacks, only $552K, but you battled back, and for a while there, you had the chip lead, but you came in second place. A great run here at this final table. How do you feel about your play?
Oh, I felt great. I mean, it's the first main tournament I've ever done. Just small stuff anyways. We played the satellite yesterday morning, won that, and played the same way all day until we got to here. And came down to mainly a race at the end.
Thank you very much, guys. And Fred, it's always tough when you get so close to that big money. But unfortunately, someone's got to go out in second, and we have a new HPT champion after making his second final table. Finally, Ken has won it all. We go back down to the floor with James Larson.
All right, folks, well, this is the best part of the program, the cash presentation. Joining me over here is Mike Erickson, the tournament director here at Meskwaki, and, of course, our tour ambassador, Mr. Darvin Moonen. The most important guy right now, as I'm about to interview Ken, you are the HPT champion of Meskwaki. Has it sunk in? How do you feel?
Like I said, it's just an amazing feeling. I didn't ever expect it, and I won't expect it until I get home and put that in the bank and talk to my daughter-in-law.
Dan, you're very emotional right now. I mean, what a day this is. And let's be honest, you weren't the favorite coming in here, but you were patient, you waited around, and good things happened.
Yeah, I set in my mind yesterday to just play the good hands. If I got enough good ones in a row, I could do something with them. And I said, like I said, I got everybody thinking that I was only playing good hands. So I got by with a couple of bluffs that worked out. And everything went well for me this weekend. It was just a good weekend.
We talked in the pre-interviews, your wife, a very important part of your life. Well, she's here with us, and she's up in the room, and she's going to be very, very proud of you. So with no further ado, our tour ambassador, the one, the only, Mr. Darvin Moon, would you please do the honors and hand the cash over to our good friend Ken?
Congratulations, Ken.
Thank you.
You won $90K. You played well, you played strong, you deserve it, buddy.
I appreciate it, and I thank you all. And HPT was great to me, and I really enjoyed it.
Way to go, Ken. Got that chip lead about halfway through this final table. Never look back, Fred. Tight play can actually win you championships sometimes. You don't have to just be so aggressive. You could sit and wait for the right spots, and this was definitely the right spot tonight for Ken. Way to go. Now, how about you? You think you've got what it takes to sit at our final table and win the unreal cash? Well, then log on to hptpoker.com to find out about our upcoming events that anyone can play in. For James Larson and Fred Bevel, I'm Chris Hansen. We'll see you next time right here on the HPT.